We also have the same water bottle, which is great.
No, we don't. What?
We do. Well, I own that one. That's my bedside water bottle. This is my couch side water bottle. Yes, I have water bottle. I also have a work water bottle. I'm an organized fucking millennial. Don't take that away from me. There's a water bottle for everything. It's your turn to do the intro.
Oh, it is.
It is.
All right. Well, welcome to the final podcast. Promise this is the last episode, the final one. We're not going to do any more after this one. Episode BVS. I don't know. I guess that's what we're going to be talking about.
This final episode thing, Joe, got old the first episode we did.
Yep. So we're going to be talking about Batman versus Superman because we discussed about the upcoming topics, and I suggested that we talk about a movie that wasn't, let's say, well received critically, even maybe box office wise, and then we defend whether we like it or not. You immediately jumped on and said, I want to do Batman versus Superman.
Well, because there's really only two recent options. There's The Last Jedi, which is a hot, flaming pile of controversy that I don't want to touch. And then there's BVS, which everybody can agree sucks, except for me, which I think it's better than Citizen Kane, and I stand by those words. So,
what?
We'll get into that later.
Alrighty then.
Citizen Kane overrated? Question mark. Prank gone wrong?
Yeah. So you asked me to watch the Ultimate Edition, and I had trouble finding it, so I had to.
Yeah, we've been saying BVS a lot. Say the
Batman. Okay, Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition.
Goddamn fucking right it is. I'm
3
so enthusiastic.
3 hours long. It's 3 hours long. That is my first complaint about this movie, and we'll get into that soon. What I wanted to say is it's hard to find because I didn't want to buy it.
Coward.
No, I'm not going to buy it. So I ended up watching it on a very legal site that finishes with like dot something. I can't pronounce it, but whatever.
So I ended up watching it in court, by the way.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm going to jail, I guess. So I started watching the movie. It was like, I think 10:30-ish, and so I went to bed at like 2 a.m. because I took a pause, a pee break, get a water or whatever, and I have to say I didn't take as many notes as you did. Like you took like 7 pages?
12, I think.
12 pages. 12. I have, let me check, almost 2 pages of notes.
So here's what I will say in my defense. My notes, half or more of my notes are me writing down and counting how many scenes there are in this movie. Because there's a ridiculous amount of scenes, and some of them last 6 seconds, which is nuts. I checked online. Apparently the average amount of scenes in a movie is 110. For like an hour and a half, 2 hour movies, 110.
Yeah, we're talking about 3 hours here.
Yeah, and in this 3 hour movie, there's 141, but that's a generous 141, meaning that I think it's more, but just there's a lot of scenes that play in parallel. There's a lot of stuff that kind of goes back and forth. Sometimes it's just one reaction shot out of nowhere from another location, and that's technically a scene, but I don't want to count it as a scene. So it's definitely.
But here,
it's closer to 150. Let's say 150 as a clean, nice number. Well, there's 150 scenes.
Here we're getting to film sort of academia and all that, and just film knowledge, I guess.
Which we're qualified to do.
Yeah, sure. We both went to a school that calls itself film school.
We have both gone to a school, that is correct.
Yeah, and we both paid to watch movies. So basically, we're both well versed in film theory. But I guess what I want to get to is the idea of what a film scene, film sequence is, and sometimes like you said, any individual new location could be called a scene, but if it's a reaction to something, is it really another scene? You know what I mean? So it's like, let's say 150 just to be safe, but it's kind of like a vague definition, I think, of scene, sequence, or whatever.
I tried to be as generous. Like I tried to only count stuff that really has sort of like an emotional storytelling independent purpose. So like there is like a scene where it's literally about 6 or 7 seconds of Lex Luthor watching the sunset. That's it. But that's not a
Mm.
reaction shot, and there is an emotion behind
We'll,
that shot. So I count that as a
we'll
scene.
we'll get back to Lex Luthor later. Okay.
We're gonna
So
get back to him a lot. But here's the thing:
yeah,
if you take this 3-hour movie, 180 minutes, and you take the number of scenes, that's on average a minute and 12 seconds per scene, which
makes
is
sense.
nuts. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
No, it makes sense in the sense that this movie is there's so much going on in this movie that I understand. Minute and a half. Man, we
But
have to cough. Like, what's
I
wrong with
know
us?
we're old. We're dying.
So, okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, I'm gonna start by saying that in this podcast, I'm supposed to be the one that doesn't like this movie, right? I'm supposed to say all the negative parts about this movie. I want to start off by saying that I enjoyed this version much more than the original version, because the theatrical version, you felt as you were watching it that there are pieces missing to the puzzle. And as you watch this version of the movie, you have those pieces. But then again, I guess to me that's a knock on the movie, because if you need 3 hours to tell your story and you can't do it if it's not 3 hours, that means that something's flawed in the plan. I'm saying that either you do 2 movies, or you just take parts out of it. Do we really need to have not Abomination, but what's
Doomsday.
the Doomsday? Do we really need Doomsday? I mean, stuff like that. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the final act. But before, I'm just going to talk about the thing that I really love about this movie. I think that the opening scene, first opening sequence, where you see Bruce Wayne going to Metropolis and running into the smoke. I think that is, we've talked about it before. I think that is, it's beautiful. It's like amazing storytelling. You don't need anything more than that to understand the motivation behind the characters. It ties into the first movie beautifully. I think forget that it's a superhero movie. It's just a great first opening scene.
I will say here, we're going to talk about this later, but I enjoyed the movie much more when I realized that it's not a superhero movie. It's just an action
Yeah.
movie.
Well, yeah.
When
Go ahead.
you realize that it's not supposed to, when it actually doesn't work as a superhero movie, but it does work as an action movie, where there's just a bunch of scenes where it's like, okay, yeah, let's get the story out of the way to get to the 2 longest scenes, which are the 2 big fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the longest scenes because it's just an action movie.
Well, it's not just an action movie. I think that this Ultimate Edition version of the movie is it is an action movie, but it's also a lot I don't want to. It's not like it's not a spy movie, because they're not going all around the world. But there's this whole thing of like they're each, like Lois Lane, Batman, and Superman. They're all kind of investigating something, right? They're trying to get to the bottom of something. So there's like Lois Lane's story is more of a political sort of thriller kind of story in itself, and then Batman and Superman, their story is kind of 2 people who are obsessed with this other person, and they're just trying to, and they're building, there's this hate for him, for the other person, right? So there's a buildup. You feel the buildup. There are more scenes in this version where you see Clark Kent investigating on Batman, right? Which were scenes that we never.
Where he's doing journalism.
Yeah, he's doing like he's a journalist. He's actually a journalist, Again, I appreciated that, but I'm not supposed to say things that I liked about the movie. I'm supposed to say
You're
things
supposed
that
to hate it. I'm supposed to
hate
These
it.
are,
Okay.
You're feeding me my points right now.
Okay. So once maybe here's a point that I can say about the movie. The first 9 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flawless. They're amazing. They're really good. It just like it nosedives after that, because what you get in the first 9 minutes is a sort of pace. It's fast, but it doesn't go too fast. You have time to see and understand what's going through Bruce Wayne's head when he's looking at Superman flying through the air, going through the buildings, destroying the whole city. And it cuts to like the desert, and you got these characters you do not care about, that you're supposed to feel something when they die, but you're like, I don't even know who this character is. I don't know why she's there. Who's this terrorist guy? And then it becomes like a weird like there's a Mad Max moment where they have all their like motorcycles, and you just like well, that was, you put that in because it sounded cool. You know, there's too much. Here's something that my big like, yeah, it's written in bold in my notes. This movie tried to continue in the vein of the Christopher Nolan idea of making it kind of more than just a superhero movie, making it an action movie, a thriller. But then it had comic book moments where you're like, pick one. Either you're a comic book movie where you're like, things don't matter, physics don't matter, where, or you're like, things are grounded in some sort of reality. There are fight scenes where you're like, is Batman stronger than, like, you know, the Hulk? Like, what the hell? He picks people up and he throws them like they weigh nothing, and he's not wearing his like metal suit. He's wearing his normal suit. He can't. There's nothing that justifies him. Like, the first time you see him, he's in the house with the
hostages.
Hostages. Like, was just sex traffickers or whatever, and he's like on the ceiling, and he keeps turning, like, and rolling on the ceiling, and I'm guessing
he's not rolling on the ceiling. He's grabbing into the ceiling, breaking through
like
the wooden slats and climbing. Essentially, kind of
sideways,
like a bat.
Well, he's not.
He's wearing claws in his hands or something. It looks cool and it's scary.
Exactly. It looks cool and it's scary. That's the thing about this movie. It tries to be like, there are moments you're like, wow, this is actually really well done. It feels like it's a political, you know, thriller, suspense, maybe even. And then he starts, like, acting like a bat. And you're like, pick one, dude. Pick one. Go ahead. Your turn.
Well, I was going to say, you're moving very, very quickly because you didn't give the beginning of the movie its due. It's better than you think it is.
Oh, it's better. Okay, go ahead.
It is better than you think it is. Because, first of all, you're right. It is the best sequence in the film. But it's better because from the very first shot, there is a thematic foreshadowing and setup of the theme of the movie, which is the idea of the fall and the rise. You hear Bruce Wayne talk about it in his narrative.
Oh yeah.
He talks about people, you know, what has fallen, and he has this little speech. But the first thing you see is a red leaf flying across the screen, indicating literal fall, right? So there's this thematic recurrence of the whole idea of fall. The whole first scene, or the two scenes that are sort of parallel together, is his parents dying. So the fall of the little Bruce child, as he also falls down the well, right? And then his rise with the bats towards the light. So it's
why does he always have to fall down a well?
Because it's from the comics, so they just keep that.
Oh yeah, but there's some comics that it's not that. I mean, it's fine.
It sets up a lot of things. It sets up his fear of bats and the Batcave itself. So it does a lot of work.
Of course, right? It's the best. It's
efficient storytelling.
Yeah, it's efficient. Yeah, the again, first 9 minutes are flawless. The murder of his parents is so beautiful. It's like almost shot for shot certain comics that I don't know which one. I don't know, probably I don't know if you know, but there's like one comic where a little bit like the pearls, and even some of the shots where I feel like watching it, I was like, this is almost an exact copy of the framing and of everything. So,
which is a very Zack Snyder thing to do.
Yeah, you know, he's
it's all in slow motion, obviously.
Yeah,
I almost wanted to do a slow motion counter for the movie, but that would have just been too much because there's so many shots that are in slow motion, which is also why it's 3 hours long.
Yeah,
it'd probably be like an hour 15 without all the slow motion. But then, you get to the great Metropolis scene, which is, in my memory at least, the first time that a movie's opening and a movie's premise was directly set up by the audience reaction to the previous film. If audiences hadn't reacted so strongly to the ending of the previous film, Man of Steel, where it's just essentially destruction porn, where they levy an entire city and thousands die. If people hadn't gotten so angry about that and compared it to Transformers and all these other Destructo movies, I don't think they would have started this movie with that. They incorporated audience reaction to the previous movie story into the actual storytelling of the sequel, where you see actual people. Like, if we got so angry about that scene, imagine how the Metropolis citizens felt. Imagine how all the other citizens felt. So they incorporated a real life reaction into their storytelling, which I think is super interesting. And it is great to see that. I love that shot where the Wayne Tower collapses and dust starts flying everywhere, and all the citizens are running away, and he's the only one running straight into the cloud dust. It's like a perfect trailer shot, but it's also, like you said before, it's a great character shot. It tells you everything you need to know about his character. He is the one person who will run towards the debris and run towards the explosion and runs towards his people, his employees, when everybody else is too afraid. That it tells you everything you need to know about him. And the reason
Yeah.
he's so angry at the end of that, when he's watching Superman fall through the sky fighting his little super tight pal, is because there's a reason his origin story, his parents' murder flashback, and this scene are closely tied together. It's because Bruce Wayne watches Superman create a bunch more orphans that day, just like he was. All that little girl that he finds outside, he's like, "Where's your mom?" And she points at Wayne Tower, which is annihilated, and you can see in his eyes that he's like, "Oh, great, another orphan
Yeah, I
whose
got that
parents
part.
got needlessly killed."
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So it does a perfect setup of his character. Everything, like you believe, like if he were to finish that scene, turn towards the camera and go, "I would like to kill Superman now," I'd go, "Yep, go for it. You got my blessing. I feel you. I understand your motivation.
Yeah.
It's good. It
It's
makes
actually
sense."
it's actually one of the, this is a term I use a lot when I want to talk, convince someone that, or talk about a really good scene in a movie. This is a film school sequence. Like, you could show this in a film class and say, this is how you can, you know, set up a movie or a scene to create motivation. It's exposition, but it's exposition because the best exposition happens when you don't know it's exposition, you know. And for people who don't know what exposition is, because we use these, you know, terms, exposition is in a movie when a character or an event will explain to you what like a part of a premise or a part of the story. So sometimes you'll notice a character say, like, you know, someone will say, like, "Oh my God, it's you know, it's
Gosh, this
talk
town
about
sure has
yeah,
changed in the past 10 years. Look at
yeah,"
all
or
these new
like,
tall buildings.
yeah, or exactly, or like they explain something that everybody should know, or like you're like, sometimes they explain like a scientific term. Like, why would, like, you know, when you watch a movie and it's like a sci-fi movie or it's a blockbuster, and then like someone says a term that's like a science or nature term or whatever, and then someone has to say, yeah, that's when this and this and this happens, and you're like, who would stop in the middle of an action scene, like fire all over, like debris falling and like being shot, start explaining what like photosynthesis is, right? Well, that's exposition, a character telling you things, information you need to know. The
My favorite
best
is character calling each other by like their relationship, like "Hey, big sis," "Hey, little bro."
yeah,
Those are the
exactly.
dumbest ones. I love those.
So the best exposition is exposition that you don't know is exposition. So something where, you know, I don't care if you haven't seen let's say you haven't seen Superman or no, it's not Superman, it's Man of Steel. You haven't seen Man of Steel, and then you see Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. You don't need to see it. You understand what's going on. Superman's fighting someone, Batman's pissed, and he wants to kill him. He wants revenge. He wants to seek revenge for all the damage he's done or whatever. So I'm not saying that's probably the best part of the movie is the first 9 minutes. It's like Up, you know, Up. The best part of Up is the first montage of the movie.
There are more moments in the movie like this where they have good, subtle exposition. Sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
is heavy-handed. It's another Zack Snyder thing that does happen a lot in his movies. But there are tiny moments that I love where one small example is the first time that Bruce shows up at the cave, the ninth scene of the movie.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're going to get that technical. Uh, Bruce shows up and he gets on his computer and they start talking about their nonsense, right? And Alfred serves him some coffee. He brings him a coffee cup. And later on, there's a scene where Alfred shows up at Bruce's house in the morning to talk about, again, their plans and their stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
Bruce handing Alfred a cup of coffee. And Alfred
Mm-hmm.
says, thanks. And I really love, I think it's the first time you saw Bruce Wayne do something for Alfred in a
Oh.
movie. I can't think of another instance where Bruce did something for him where he wasn't just being served. You can clearly see that it's a partnership between these two. You know, Bruce hands him a coffee and they talk as equals. And
Yeah.
I think it's fun to have that where he calls him Master Wayne, but you feel like it's just a reflex at that point. It's more of a partnership than a servitude kind of relationship. And I enjoy those tiny little moments where you see that shine through.
I wondered the first time we see Alfred, I didn't like the dialogue or the way he acted, because I wrote down like, what's up with Alfred? Why is he feeding the fear? Because I always found that Alfred's always been, you know, the one who, you know, who's gonna have these small monologues or lessons, life lessons, or he's gonna tell a story that's gonna, I don't know, reassure or help Batman or whatever. He's like a father figure and so on. But in the first scene, I just remember saying like he's like putting more gas on the fire or something. And but
I
that's just
disagree.
a side note.
Well, see, I disagree because when they talk about Superman and how everything's changed, right? There's this tiny moment in that first scene where Alfred says "new rules," referring to the fact that Bruce is now branding criminals, right? And Bruce says, "We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed." And Alfred says, "Yes, it has. Everything's changed." And he starts that great, again, a trailer line, but where he says, "That's how it starts: the fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel." He's essentially telling him, "Look, you're following down this path that is turning you into a cruel man." He's telling him flat out, "You're becoming cruel." But he's letting Bruce come to his own decisions nonetheless.
Yeah, that's true. What else? Let me see my notes.
Are you ready to admit this movie is amazing?
Hey, listen, we'll see at the end of this podcast. Stay tuned till the end.
This movie has 17 horses, okay, and that's good.
There's 17 horses. This version of this movie, because in the first version, the theatrical version, we don't see the guys in the desert. Horses. Much less desert too.
Their name is Python. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Python or whatever. That whole scene was bad in the first version.
It was so bad.
And then in this Ultimate Edition, it's just longer. And
I know I'm supposed to defend it, but it's just it's such a funny scene where it's like these hardy CIA guys on their horses and look at us, we're good. There's civilians in the area. We're gonna save them. And then they show a big middle finger to the drone. It's like, who did the U.S. military endorse this movie? Did they pay Zack Snyder to do lip service to their CIA guys?
But that whole scene again. This is something that happens sometimes in movies where, again, maybe there's more scenes with these characters where a character like that, the leader of the Python, the CIA group or whatever, he's got you can tell that he's more than just a character that's there to die or to just shoot a gun, because he has an attitude and a certain his dialogue. He has personality. He has a répartie, we say in French, where he knows how to jock it off with the dialogue, whatever. But what I want to say is that then he's there for 2 minutes, and then he gives a finger to the drone and then you never see him again. You're like, why?
There's a lot of dropped plot points or just plot points that go nowhere, or plot points that could have. There's a lot of characters in this movie that could have been recycled and condensed into one character serving multiple roles.
Yeah.
Supposed to be defending this thing, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to. It's all right.
Here's the thing. I will be the first to admit this movie is flawed as hell. My point is that you can absolutely derive enjoyment from watching it. You can absolutely have a good time watching it because there's a lot to enjoy despite the fact that it is not a very good movie. That's my point. I want to make this movie enjoyable.
I enjoyed a lot of it. I also found that it was I don't want to go too fast. So
it's a 3-hour movie. We can skip some things.
Yeah, we can. Well, okay. Well, let's jump into one of the characters that I'm going to say that I don't like him just for the purposes of this podcast. Lex Luthor. What the fuck is
it only for the purposes of this podcast, or?
Yes, actually it is. I'm going to say that I don't like his rendition of Lex Luthor, this neurotic
no, come on. He's
neurotic
the Jared
psychopath with
No, come on. He's the Jared Leto of this movie. Come on. He's amazing.
Well, I actually no. Hey, listen. I'm supposed to hate it, so I'm gonna hate it. It makes no sense. What the fuck? Why does he the candy scene where he's like, I want the body of General Zod, and he puts the candy in the senator's mouth?
Such a weird scene.
What is that?
That whole weird scene.
That whole scene actually would have worked if he would have just ate the candy. He unwraps the candy and he's all confident and he just eats the candy and he has this attitude. No, instead he feeds the guy the candy. Again, sometimes you just feel and this happens in all the movies where you just feel no one said, no, Zach, no, I don't think that's a good idea. You need people telling you I'm not sure you should do that, Zach. Because I feel he had I feel he had so much control, which usually doesn't happen in blockbusters, but nobody went I don't know if you should put this in the movie. So the whole feeding the candy, I don't get it. I don't see I guess he's just I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to say that he has control. Yeah.
But the reason it's a weird scene is because the government guy comes to him and he says, I think there's a way we can help each other. which establishes this sort of balance, right, between the two words. Like, okay, government guy gives him something, and Lex gives him something. Except afterwards, Lex just starts naming the things that he wants, and the government guy looks like he has absolutely no choice in the matter. Like he's being blackmailed and forced into doing whatever Lex says. It's an immediately weird reversal. That my only reasoning where I can sort of try and be subjective, where I'm like, okay, well, how can I make this more realistic just to enjoy this scene more? That makes no sense. Is just to think the government guy kind of realized that he painted himself in the corner because now Lex owns his life and can just have him murdered if he wants to.
I don't know.
I don't know what the reasoning is, but
again, going back to Lex Luthor, since we're on the subject of Lex Luthor, I feel like he has control over nothing. He pretends he does, and anytime something backfires, it's like it was actually part of his plan. Like even the Batman stealing the kryptonite,
which was entirely part of his plan.
Yeah, but like you have to make the spectator believe that it was part of his plan. I never for 1 second felt like it was written in a way where there were cues to tell you that he wanted Batman to steal it. Like maybe I guess he sent the Russian to not the Russian, but the whatever, the guy the guy that's got long black hair.
His name is KG Beast.
Oh, really? KG
His
Beast?
name is literally KG Beast.
No.
I promise you.
His name is KG Beast?
Don't you love this movie?
Oh, it keeps getting better and better. So KG Beast, he was sent, by Lex Luthor in these specific places because he knew that Batman would be tailing him and which would lead him to the White Russian and all that and blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing that points to that. So you're like, okay, so this was your plan all along, but I've never felt like you were in control. So again, a knock on writing, directing.
Counter argument.
Go ahead.
The movie is too subtle and you're too dumb. Here's
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll say it in a nicer way. The movie is very subtle, and small holes in the writing make it hard to appreciate that subtlety. Here's a few things.
You're gonna have to work hard here. Go ahead.
I'm gonna work overtime here. We know that Lex knows Batman's true identity, correct?
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, at the end, yeah, he does. Yeah,
we do, because
you know what you find out at the end.
No,
you
find
before that.
Well,
don't tell me. But don't tell me that at the scene where he goes like Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne.
He already knows at that point. We don't know that he knows, but he already knows.
How do you know that he knows? How do you know that I know that he knows that you know that I know that they know that my cat knows?
Here's how I know. There's a lot of hints that point towards this. First, you're going to have to look at both branches. The Superman branch, there's that scene where Perry receives the invite to the Library of Metropolis Awards, whatever gala thing, right? And he says somebody specifically requested for Clark Kent to be there. I guess some old crone must have a thing for nerds.
Yeah.
By the way, is in my list of Perry zingers, of which there are 4 in this movie. There's 4 times where he makes fun of Clark.
How many lines does Lawrence Fishburne even have?
Not much more than 4.
Probably has like 7 or 8, honestly. 10 maybe.
Crime wave in Gotham. Water, wet.
There's all that. Yeah,
that's the best line. But so he says somebody specifically requested for Clark Kent. Some old thing must have a thing for nerds. Lex specifically wants Clark Kent to be there. We know that. Bruce Wayne also receives an invite to this gala thing right when he needs information on Lex Luthor's computer. Coinky-dink? No. Lex invites both Clark and Bruce in the same place. He knows they will meet. He wants them to interact. That's the first thing. When Bruce goes downstairs to install that little
dongle.
Dongle. He has a word for it. The leech. When he installs the leech, Grace, Lex's assistant, she comes downstairs, and she's like, "Can I help you, Mr. Wayne?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought this was the bathroom. That last martini was too many." Which, by the way, I really love that scene because it's a great showcase of like Bruce's immediate instinct to go into Playboy mode.
Yeah.
He's so used to playing the role that even when she starts leaving to talk to someone else, he goes, "I like those shoes." Like, the conversation's done. He doesn't need to add more to it, but he just goes, "I like those shoes," like some dumb drunk guy. And I find that a great scene.
Hey, Ben Affleck was a great Batman. Bruce Wayne, great Batman and Bruce Wayne. He's better than
Bruce Man. Wayne Bat.
He's a great Bruce Man Batman, and he's He's probably better than actually he is better than
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Yeah.
I tend to agree. But so in that scene, Grace sort of pretends to be like, "What are you doing here?" But she does absolutely nothing. She lets him install the leech because Lex has instructed her to. So in that scene where where Bruce and Clark meet upstairs and Lex comes to talk to them, which by the way is such a funny scene when you remember that like Jesse Eisenberg is what 5'11",
Yeah.
and the two of them tower over him because they're both like 6'3" and 6'4".
Yeah, I know.
It's so funny. He looks like he's 4'9", but he's really tall.
I know.
And so he's like, "You should not pick a fight with this person." He's literally egging them on. He's literally being like the douchey guy that knows something that somebody else doesn't. He's being that douche. He knows who they both are. You have another hint of this later when Clark receives newspaper cuttings at his office of Wallace, like the supposed bomber guy, and Bruce receives the returned checks from Wallace, and they both have the same handwriting on them, egging them on to fight each other. Both of which came from Lex again.
Okay. That is not what you're doing there. Fine. I believe you because it's true. But I don't think that it should be that. I don't think that you need to think that much about it. Like they should have. I think that if it would have been better written, I wouldn't have had to have someone explain it to me.
I agree, but see, that's my point. Is that it's good subtlety that the poor writing around it makes it hard to distinguish from the other.
Because I guess you watched it knowing that Lex knew all this, knowing that Lex probably set this up, and so when you rewatched it with that angle, you saw all these clues. And now that you tell me that, if I watch it again, I'll probably find other things that point to this.
Absolutely, you will.
But most people won't watch a movie twice, honestly, and won't catch on.
I'm sorry, are you judging me because I watched BVS 17 times? Is that judgment I'm hearing in your voice?
No, I'm saying no. I've watched like movies like a million. There's some movies I watch every month almost, and that's not a problem. What I'm saying is that for movies like this, like blockbusters and these huge superhero movies, these action movies, I appreciate the subtlety and like having cues in a movie that you're like, oh, see, the movie's leading you on. Like, can you guess the clues to guess the ending? I like that. But sometimes when you have to like, jump through hoops to understand, and because I didn't notice that it's the same handwriting, and not everybody will get that. That's a really good subtle point, but you need more than that. You need something. I don't mean that you need a scene where he's like Lex Luthor is like in his lair, with like computers, and he's going like, I found a way to, and like pictures of Bruce Wayne and like Batman, and he draws on Bruce Wayne's face, and he's like, oh, look, if I do a Batman suit, then he's Batman. But I'm just saying that it's too subtle. So
that's the thing. The thing that one of the issues with this movie is that it's a perfect example of a movie where the director or the writer will defend it by saying, well, I made it the way it's meant to be. If you don't like it or get it, then it's just not for you. In the sense that it's designed in a very specific, intentional way that is hard to get into. But if you make the effort, which I have because I find it fascinating, there's a lot of these things in the movie. The whole thing with, the Lois Lane, her whole shtick throughout the whole movie, right? By the way, she needs to be saved 3 times in the movie, according to my stats.
Yeah, but that's like Lois Lane is there to be saved. That's her.
Rules of 3, and it had me thinking. Why in the world would Lex Luthor give experimental rare metal bullets to his soldiers in the desert if he doesn't want to trace back to him? And the answer is, of course, he wants it traced back to him. He knows that if he puts fancy metal in the desert, and the government traces back to Lex Luthor,
it's fancy metal in the desert.
But seriously, if this thing bothered me for so long, it's only in my 15th viewing, I think, that I finally got it. It's not a plot hole. He put that metal there on purpose. If the government finds it, and we see evidence of this later when Lois Lane talks to that general, the government is not going to do anything against Lex because they can't. He knows that Lois Lane finding some of that fancy metal bullet there, she will track him down eventually, and he'll be able to capture her, bring her to his lair, and go ha, and push her off a tower and summon Superman. He knows all these things, and so he puts that metal there on purpose. It's not him being dumb. It's him going like, Lois Lane will track me down with this fancy bullet. Let's do it. He has multiple plans at the same time and contingencies for all his other plans. That's why he desperately wants to import his fancy mineral, right? And for some weird reason, he insists on getting government authorization to import it. He needs like an import license.
Yeah, like why? What the fuck?
He's going through the motions because he knows that, you know, he'll bring it in anyway under Dark of Night, and Bruce Wayne will try to steal it. And either he will fail or he'll succeed. And either way doesn't matter because Lex will just keep the rock, he'll make a fancy weapon, or Bruce steals it and he makes a fancy weapon. To him, both are win-wins, you know, because that's the issue. Character motivations are a mess in this movie, but they are there, right? Lois Lane, she's a journalist. She's investigating. That's her motivation. That's easy to piece together. Gal Gadot, she's trying to start a franchise, so she's there for a few scenes just so people like her. That's her motivation. That's fine. I respect it. It's a great guitar riff.
No, it's really great. It's not even guitar. It's a isn't that a cello? It's a cello.
You're talking about Wonder Woman's theme?
Yeah.
It's an electric guitar.
No, it's a cello.
The we can't do music out loud. We're going to discuss this. It's absolutely an electric guitar.
No, okay, keep talking. I'm going to search this online.
Please do. Hans Zimmer composed it. Bruce's motivation is the easiest to understand. Superman is potentially dangerous, and because he's so powerful, if there's a single tiny percentage chance that he might go evil, you have to treat it as an absolute. So it's a preemptive strike. Bruce is all about the preemptive strike. That makes sense. We can all understand that. We're all for it. Superman is the most murkiest of motivations because he just sort of sulks around and doesn't know what to do, but he knows that Batman is bad and he doesn't like the way he does things. Mm-hmm. We don't know why, because he also doesn't do things. He always looks depressed when he's saving people. He looks like the saddest scout boy ever. Yeah. Lex's motivation is the problem with Lex's motivation is that it's an art house motivation. It's an indie movie motivation that doesn't work in an action movie. His motivation is power cannot be innocent. He wants to prove that Superman is either not all powerful and can be, has flaws and can be killed or hurt, or he is not all good. You cannot be all powerful and all good in his mind because it's a contradiction, right? If Superman were both all powerful and all good, then there would be no evil and no sadness in the world, right? Because he's not a god. He's trying to break down this image of Superman as God.
And I guess that's one of the reasons why it doesn't work, because usually a villain has to have something that he can gain. You know what I mean? Like that's usually the villain's.
That's why it doesn't work, because all he gains is being proved right.
Yeah,
that's all he cares about.
Which is again, like he's a fucking psychopath. He's a psychopath. He's a crazy, like a neurological
psychopath.
Problem
is a 3-syllable word for complex thoughts too tiny for that dumb dialogue line. I have it written down here somewhere.
So many good lines.
That's why his motivation doesn't work in this movie, even though it's actually kind of interesting, because he doesn't care about. Oh, what was Kevin Spacey's billionaire Lex Luthor motivation to like become super rich and buy mountains?
Oh well, he wanted to use the Kryptonian technology to create an island that would be his country. Like he wanted to be the owner of his own country. Like he wanted to do real estate and sell it. I don't know what.
So exactly that's
which
fucking
is stupid too.
Yeah.
It's that's very comic booky. That's very comic booky.
But so at least this Lex Luthor, it doesn't work in a movie, but I can get where he's coming from, despite the heavy-handed, thing talking about like, well, God wasn't there to stop me when my father was abusing me. Like that's his whole shtick, right? He talks about his daddy issues.
You know what I feel?
Seven times he talks about his daddy issues. Seven times.
Here's one thing. I feel that this Lex Luthor kind of reminds me of the Riddler in Batman Forever. Yeah, Batman
Forever. The reason he reminds you of that is because that Riddler reminds you of the Joker.
Exactly.
That's what the performance was designed as.
Exactly. It feels like he's this agent of chaos that doesn't have a motivation except
an agent of chaos.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught one.
Oh God! Don't. Oh, so good.
Don't talk about a better movie.
Oh, it's so good. Exactly. He's this character that's kind of like the Joker, but because maybe they felt that they needed that, or maybe they wanted to go in a different direction. It's just that
it's hard to know how much you can blame on Jesse Eisenberg and how much you can blame on Zack Snyder and how much you can blame on Chris Terrio and how much you can blame on David S. Goyer and etc.
Yeah. Well, I think that when it comes to actors, their performance it's usually because of the producers and the directors and all that. Because a good actor like Jesse Eisenberg can act any way, like not in any way, like in the sense that he has talent. So if they let him get to the point where he was this neurotic Joker-esque person, it's because they let him get there. You need to in pre-production, you need to tell your actors this is where we're
cooperative.
going, you know?
It's cooperative.
Yeah,
he's not
because
acting alone.
we've all seen movies where we're like, this actor, he's bad in this. Like, why is he so
Suicide
bad? All
Squad.
these actors. Yeah, I guess Suicide Squad, right? Exactly. That's a good example. All these actors are really good actors, but they all suck in this. It's not their fault. It's because that's what they're given. Like, if the script sucks, and actors sometimes they know they're doing, like you've seen behind the scenes where actors are like, we knew this was going to bomb. So a lot of the times they actually work harder because like they don't want the movie to bomb, but by trying harder, they just make it worse. What I'm saying is
that's the Last Jedi thing. All the actors, you can see that they were like trying to warn fans
so
about
hard.
how
Trying to work so hard. Anyway, so we've just spent like almost half an hour, 20 minutes on Lex.
Can I say one thing that
go ahead.
That I don't want to forget this, and it's not exactly within the subject, but I know that you're not going to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. There's a scene where Wallace, the alleged bomber, the guy who lost his legs, right?
Yeah, great.
That?
That's a great side plot. That's really good. It's really good.
When he climbs up on the Superman statue and defaces it with red, the first shot of the graffiti is him just spraying a red line across the chest of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That is foreshadowing for the injury that he gets later in the movie when he dies, when the claw of Doomsday goes right into his chest. So that graffiti line across his chest on the statue is foreshadowing his injury that kills him at the end of the movie.
Really?
Absolutely.
It's a line.
It's a red line. It's like blood red, directly across his chest, exactly where he gets stabbed later and bleeds out of.
I'd have to watch it again because exactly where, and it's it's like it. Okay, I'm gonna give it to you.
Give it to me. Give this one. Come on.
Fine. I'll
nobody else has ever noticed this. Give it to me.
Fine. It's when you start looking for things, for clues, and for like markers or foreshadowing, you can find it anywhere. If your arguments are
Here's
strong
the thing.
enough.
I'm in the school that accidental foreshadowing is still good foreshadowing.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that's the script putting itself together, and I'm a fan of that.
Okay, let's move on. I have a few things because we've already been like.
Please try criticizing it more. Yeah. I have counter arguments ready.
Okay.
Alfred has 6 zingers, by the way. There's 6 times that he makes fun of Bruce in the movie.
Well, I mean, it's Jeremy Irons. He has to have as many zingers as you like. You just have him on screen say zingers all along. I don't mind. Okay, so. Superman can hear every individual heartbeat. True or false? It's supposed to. That's what I've read, like in comic book facts or whatever. He can hear every heartbeat, and he can hear. There's even a scene where we see him hearing Lois's heart as she's drowning, right? In the last sequence. So he can hear every individual heartbeat, and he's lived his whole life with his mother. I'm guessing that he knows her heartbeat. Why can't he hear her heartbeat? She's not in this box of lead, nowhere. So why can't he hear her? Why can't he find her? Why can't he find her? Tell me, Nick, why he can't find his mother. Why is it so important that he fights Batman?
So here's the thing. This is one of those things where it's like, part of me wants to explain it in a way that's too generous to the movie, and part of me thinks that they just didn't write that one scene that would be needed for this to make sense. But in the movie, and in Man of Steel, they never specify that he hears everybody's heartbeats. They never say that out loud. So I don't think we can treat that as a given rule. He has super hearing, definitely, but he can't hear everybody's heartbeat.
She's underwater drowning and like not too far.
He's not hearing her heartbeats. He's hearing her hand hitting the stone, beating to get out. Okay. That's what he's hearing.
So he wouldn't be able to hear his mother crying. Is what you're saying?
So again, she was in Kansas when she was kidnapped.
No. But she's in Metropolis when she's kidnapped. Batman's she's in Gotham or whatever.
But again, so let's assume that he can't hear heartbeats. Okay,
fine.
He can't hear her get kidnapped in Kansas because
that's fine.
He's self-isolating over in the Chilean mountains or wherever he is.
That's fine.
She gets brought to Gotham. At that point, she's just quiet. She's not making any more noise. They taped her mouth. She's not talking. He's not going to hear her. What he hears, eventually, it's a question of timing. She gets kidnapped. She's in Metropolis. At some point, he comes back to Metropolis or thereabouts.
Okay, can I stop you right there 2 seconds?
Please do.
how does he find Lois Lane in the desert?
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. I promise. We'll get back to that. We will. Okay. So he gets back to Metropolis, and at that point, all we can assume is that he hears a woman screaming, falling from a building, and he goes to save her. And coinky dink, it's Lois Lane.
So bullshit. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Okay.
That's me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
This is me being generous to the movie.
Okay.
But it works. I'm not stretching the imagination or adding plot points. I'm just
Yeah.
adding in missing elements that still makes sense. If we assume that he doesn't hear every heartbeat and every scream, if he were Superman and he just came back to Metropolis thinking, okay, I'm done self-isolating, I'm ready to save people, and he hears a woman screaming, falling from a tall building, he's gonna go save her, and then realize, oh, it's Lois Lane. I have to go punch Lex Luthor in the face now. So to me, it doesn't bother me that much. Do you want to talk about the desert now or never?
We can touch on it because I wrote down that you hear the sound of like thunder
the sound barrier breaking.
Yeah, so that means Batman doesn't break the sound barrier. That means Superman's on his way.
Yeah.
But then there's clearly another 30 seconds to a minute and a half of like diegetic time or whatever you want to call it before he shows up, and like the KG Beast. I still can't believe it. KG.
I'm not even kidding. That's literally his name. So it's from the comics.
KG Beast. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, KG Beast looks towards the sky, and then you hear the sound barrier breaking, and he goes like, he's on his way or something like that.
He's coming.
How does he know? Number one, how does he know that Superman's coming? Why was it so slow? How did Superman know that Lois Lane was in danger? All these things are just, I'm confused. So can you explain to me that whole scene?
I can try. I'm going to be, again, generous with the movie here, but allow me that luxury. So first of all, I do think you are confusing a little bit of the timing. When he says when he looks at the sky and says he's coming, we haven't heard the thunderclap yet. That comes afterwards. I'm pretty sure.
Because I watched things.
We hear the thunderclap, and then immediately he crash lands through the ceiling and lands on the ground in front of the warlord who's holding Lois Lane hostage.
There's a very, very subtle sound. Because I watched it twice. Because I started watching the original version because I couldn't find the ultimate one, and then I found it online, and so I had already watched like 20 minutes of the movie, so I rewatched the whole movie again. So I heard it and twice. I noticed there's a sound that it's just a soft sound, kind of like to remind you that that's the sound he's gonna make when he shows up. It's an audio cue to tell you that he's coming. So it's not like the sound that you hear right before he lands. No, it's not that loud. It's just weird. How does he know he's coming? How does he know? How do you know Superman's coming? Is there there's no bat signal. There's no Superman signal. Anyway, it's the day.
So there's two issues with this scene. Is one, how does Superman know that Lois is in danger? And two, how does KG Beast know that Superman's coming?
Yep.
The KG Beast thing to me is easy. He has an earpiece and Lex Luthor is watching a satellite saying, hey, he's on his way.
Probably.
That to me is sort of a non-issue, right?
Yeah.
Knowing Lex Luthor, he probably studied how long it takes Clark to save Lois every time she needs saving. He knows the amount of time they have to set up their scene. The guy has a timer that says, he's going to show up in 7 seconds on average.
Or maybe like they have a satellite tracking him.
Exactly. So that part to me is a non-issue.
Okay.
That doesn't bug me. Yes, the whole thing with him hearing her voice and showing up to save her after everybody's been gunned down and the fire has happened. So why is he far enough away that he doesn't intervene sooner, but close enough that he can hear her be in danger?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good answer to that. The best answer I have is that he probably at least knew she was in Africa, because if she went on some sort of dangerous journalistic mission to interview a warlord, I would assume that her boyfriend would know about it. If not, they got some issues.
Yeah, but no. There's a scene where, isn't there a scene where Clark Kent tells her you could have told me that you were doing this, and then she's like, that's why I didn't tell you.
So you're talking about the scene where she asks Perry for permission to take a plane to DC to get that bullet analyzed, and he comes to talk to her and says, "You're chasing snakes, though."
Yeah.
Not that I know this movie by heart and literally every line of dialogue.
Yeah,
but also I do. So that's you're confusing too.
No. But in the sense that she doesn't tell him everything. That's what I'm saying.
Well, she hasn't told him about the bullet.
Yeah.
because that's like Lex Luthor and like crazy metals and government conspiracies. Interviewing the warlord was supposed to be like a standard,
Yeah.
big quotation marks, but like a standard journalistic experience, right?
That's another thing I hate about certain movies, that it's a trope they do a lot, where like people who they trust, like their partners or their life partners, but that could definitely help them if they told them the truth, but then they hide things, like she hides the bullet because she's, I guess, for some reason. Yeah, it's okay. I don't mind that. It's like a trope they use but like they use it on TV all the time, where like characters, you know,
They
are
use
fighting
they use
crime.
pronouns instead of referring to specific people, or they don't tell someone their
Yeah,
secret, or
exactly.
yeah,
And you're like,
it's a tired trope, and
yeah,
yeah,
and like, so again,
we're in
it's fine.
agreement here.
It's fine. So yeah. So you don't know how he knew she was there, or why it took him that time. Fine. So let's just chalk that up to another, bad writing.
Snyderism.
Yeah, I mean,
We call those Snyderisms.
This movie is so like uneven, in the sense that there's such great parts, uneven, such bad parts, such good parts. It's not constant. It's like sometimes you're like, this is, I mean, the whole like exploding wheelchair scene is fantastic. The shot of Superman, like, and he knows the implications of what happened. It's so good. Anyway, I just want to keep going down my notes. I don't have that many left because we're close to about an hour. Okay, how do they know? Okay, so we both.
I love your notes. I just have to say, okay. I love your notes.
Perfect.
We have such opposing chaoses in our notes, because mine are just chock full of quotes. Say your thing. Go ahead.
Okay, so we just established that they don't say it in the movie that that Superman can hear any heartbeat. Fine. That's correct. Not a problem. They don't ever in the movie, I don't recall in this one or in Man of Steel, I don't recall anybody saying that Batman or Superman can't see through lead.
You are correct.
So when they talk about they analyze the wheelchair and everything, and they say it was made of lead, and then Lois goes like, oh, he couldn't see this moment, he couldn't see it. It's not his fault. Yeah, we all know it. You know it. I know it. Everybody who's ever seen a Superman movie knows it. But you still need to establish that it's common knowledge in the world.
This is the kind of
he's new. Like, Superman is new. It's like he's been there for 2 years. When you think about it, from Man of Steel to Batman versus Superman, it's been about 2 years. Has he did he go on Oprah and like do an interview where he said like, well, I can't see through lead, so anytime anybody want to gives me a gift, you have to put it in the lead box or whatever.
Well, okay, so that's a great example. I was gonna actually say the same thing. Here's the thing: 2 things to address your point. First of all, we're not talking about some random citizen in the street that's going like, I know that Superman don't see through lead. We're talking about Lois Lane, his girlfriend, his soon-to-be fiance. He probably has told her at some point, like, oh yeah, by the way, I can't see through lead, and she was like,
yeah, but that's fine that she
what?
I know that's fine that she
exactly knows, and she's the only one who knows. Nobody else knows this.
Yeah, but why was the wheelchair made in lead then?
Because somehow Lex Luthor figured it out.
Somehow.
Okay,
somehow.
So that's fine, but this is a generous somehow. Lex Luthor has had 2 years to be pissed against Superman and to try and prove his point, right? Odds are he probably saw some sort of news article where Superman, missed a bomb or missed a piece of evidence that was hidden in a lead box. I'm sure he's had a way to figure it out. He's smart.
Okay.
Heck, how much do you want to bet he hacked Lois's texts where she goes like, haha, you can't see through lead, idiot. Like,
I'd like to see that text thread.
It's another one of those things where it's not specified in the movie, but there's enough room for me to go like, realistically, I believe that he could have figured it out.
Okay. Again, realistically, he could have figured it out. Again, fine, I'll accept it. But it's just like, no, it's not.
It's not mentioned. I agree. It's something that should be mentioned. I agree with you there, but it's not unbelievable.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was looking at my notes. You're like, what the fuck did I just write? Okay, how do they know that Superman can't see through lead? Oh yeah,
I know how we're gonna finish this conversation. Okay. By the way,
so other thing, that added scene in this Ultimate Edition.
Please say Bruce Wayne's ass. Please say Bruce Wayne's ass.
I don't remember that.
The scene where he showers before going to Lex Luthor's.
Oh yeah. That's an add-on. I didn't know.
God, that's one of the reasons it's rated R, the Ultimate Edition.
Oh.
God bless Ben Affleck's ass.
Okay, wait. So again, an added scene where Lois Lane is in the what's the name of the bomber? The guy who's in the wheelchair?
Wallace.
Wallace. Okay, so she's in his apartment.
Correct.
um, is it just me that finds it weird that a guy in a wheelchair has shit hanging from his ceiling?
Here's the thing. I this is
I know
explained.
it's planted.
It's planted, exactly.
I know it's planted,
It's planted by idiots.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's kind of, it's almost like a dumb joke where it's
Okay.
planted by idiots. Like the
I'll
evidence is
I'll let
so
it pass.
obvious.
Yeah.
The evidence is so obvious that it couldn't have been him, but nobody
I know.
bothered to try and figure it out. It's like, oh well, the wheelchair man must have bombed the Capitol. That's it. Our work here is done. You know, like that's so that to me is like almost an inside joke with the audience where it's like, hang on a minute.
It's just
I'm all for it.
I was watching it going like, oh, that's cool. Like the whole, it's really nice looking. And then I went
aesthetic.
like, what the fuck?
Hang on a minute.
Hang on a minute. How do you? And then I started picturing him hanging the shit, like finding a way to climb, and just hanging shit off his ceiling. Okay, fine. That's okay. I'll let it pass. It was funny. Okay. Superman and Doomsday are flying. Well, Superman is bringing Doomsday to the out in the atmosphere.
Correct.
I wonder how long it actually takes the U.S. Army to shoot a nuke, because in the scene, he's bringing him like up into space. How long does it take him to bring him to space? Like a few 30 seconds, and within that time span, they call the president. The president says, "Fire the nuke." They go and turn the keys. Nuke fires out. I was like, that is some fast nukes.
Here's the thing. Again, this is one of those things where you have to think further about the movie itself, which again, most people probably wouldn't do, but I spent time thinking about this because I'm weird. But I fully believe that in the 2 years between the Metropolis incident, where they had aliens crash landing around them and basically leveling an entire city, the whole planet almost got terraformed because there were two ships fighting magnetic poles. Anyway,
yeah,
I fully believe that they would have installed some new protocols that say like, hey, if aliens ever come back, can we launch the nukes maybe 20 seconds faster? Maybe that could be a thing that we could do.
Yeah, actually,
I fully believe that it's possible.
I thought of that too. I just wrote, they sure can shoot a nuke fast. That's what I wrote. That's my note.
It's the U.S. government. Are we really surprised?
Yeah. So my final, there's a lot of other things that I did go kind of out of order, but one of the last things that I wrote was an added, I think it's an added line, but I'm not sure. At the funeral, someone says, I think it's, I don't remember. I think it's Lawrence Fishburne, or no, it's someone who says like to Martha, it's like, wow, this is going to cost a lot of money for the funeral, something like that. And she goes like, no need. Some anonymous donor gave me money. And like that line is so bad. It is so bad. And the movie almost finishes on that. You know?
So first of all, you don't confuse the lines and the characters here. The correct lines are Martha, who, as they're leaving the funeral, goes, "Oh, I have to go back to the farm to get my checkbook. I forgot to pay the bank."
Yeah.
And the glasses guy who works at Walmart next to her,
says it was taken care of.
Says, there's no need. It's taken care of. By who? Anonymous donor. Those are the exact lines, by the way.
Well, the whole exchange is so bad.
Well, it's kind of their way of going like, hey, look, Bruce Wayne trying to make amends the only way a rich man can, with money.
With money, yeah.
So I fully, it's like at the end of Justice League when he buys back the farm, and Clark is like, how'd you do that? And Bruce is like, I bought the bank.
Oh yeah.
Like it's the same exact joke at the end of this, at the very end of both movies. It's kind of like a running gag.
I do want to say that, because we have to get to our final thoughts. I do want to say that watching this, I'm going to say it again completely, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, Ultimate Edition. I almost said Unlimited. Ultimate Edition. It does, it made me hopeful for the third movie. Thinking, like I said to myself, if I didn't know how much of a piece of garbage Justice League was, I would have been optimistic for the third one, because I think that there is a nice sort of follow-up from the first to the second. It's really good. It is good, and they set up a lot of things. They set up Flashpoint. They set up Flash going through time.
So I was gonna say,
They
I'm
set up Gal
surprised you didn't
Gadot.
criticize that point about Bruce seeing the future. You didn't even address that.
I wrote it down.
Is that not a criticism for you? Because I had an argument ready for that one. I was ready to counterpoint that.
I wrote it down. To me, that whole scene is just.
I also love that we talked about Batman versus Superman. I never once talked about the literal fight between Batman and Superman.
Because it's fine.
It's a good fight.
Because it's a good fight. Because it's
based
on the
a
comic.
Great fight.
Yeah.
Because he plants the spear at the very beginning, and he leads Superman exactly to the spear.
Yeah, because Batman is super smart. He's smart.
Also, did you enjoy watching the warehouse scene now that there's blood in there?
Oh God, yeah, I noticed that. There's a lot of scenes.
That's the R-rated. That's the R-rated. The warehouse scene where he throws the crate and the guy hits the wall behind him and his head just explodes in his spout. Yeah, that's the R rating.
I mean, again, great. The fight scenes are amazing. They're like it is in the comics, but they're so not realistic. Like how, there's like a scene. Oh God, it's a shot. It's so amazing where Batman grabs a guy by the head, and slams his head on the ground, and the guy just like his head
he bends backwards. I know that shot gets me every time. But it's feasible. If you hit a man hard enough, he will fall that way. It's feasible.
Fine. It's great. It's just anyway. So we don't have time to talk about the whole dreams. Every single dream sequence to me was something that I could talk about. That was like why, and there's it's just that it doesn't. The whole scene where he sees the future. That's a dream, right? He's dreaming.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not a dream. He's actually seeing a vision of the future because Flash, as he travels back in time to warn him about the future, opens up a portal. So Bruce gets a glimpse of the future as he's dreaming.
Okay.
So it's not an accurate dream. He's actually getting a vision of a potential future.
Because
Flash opened a tunnel between their space times.
Yeah.
So that was my counterpoint to that argument.
I think, again, that made me hopeful for Flash. Because our introduction to Flash is him in
the Flash movie that was supposed to release 3 years ago. It's gone through 7 directors.
Yeah, but this movie sets up Justice League better than in a way that it could have been a good movie, but then they just shit the bed. And
Snyder Cut coming 2021.
Well, you know what? I think that. It's going to be, I mean, I'm very interested now. I'm way more interested than I used to be. I want to see this movie, the Snyder cut to what's like 4 episodes, like 4-hour-long episodes, or I don't know what. I'm optimistic because
it can't be worse.
No, shit, no. God, no. It's not going to be, I mean, it can't be worse.
It literally just can't be worse.
So, we have to wrap this up because
I'm going to say one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm surprised that two last things. Give me these 2 last things very quickly.
Three. Half a dozen.
I'll take 3. Thank you. So I'm surprised you didn't criticize the lack of Wonder Woman, how very few scenes there are, and how one of the scenes is literally just her at an ATM, which is a valid criticism, and I would have allowed it to stand without counter argument, really. And my second point is that when this movie first came out, I, as a sort of fun exercise for myself, because I'm also weird again, I rewrote the beginning of the script of my version of what the movie would have been. Which again, it's very easy to say, like, I could have made it better. But what I had imagined was a Metropolis beginning where we see how it affects all of the main players. So you see Diana looking from a distance at the destruction, thinking, should I go back into my role or should I still stay away from humanity? You see Lex trying to evacuate his building or save his people, and he gets like an explosion that burns all his hair off, which would have made him bald from the beginning, as he should have been. And Bruce trying to save his people when running into the debris and seeing Superman and Zod fight. If the movie had set up those 3 characters at the beginning, and you could have followed them throughout the story, then you can tell the appropriate sort of God of Steel story that they were trying to tell, but couldn't.
And that would have been
It would have been a good 4-hour movie.
No, it's already too you can't have more of Diana. Why? I mean, I understand. I actually like the way that she's mysterious because we all know who she there's no secret to it, so it's more like, oh, what is she gonna do? And then
don't you just love that scene where Bruce Wayne is like, I've known a lot of women like you, and she's like,
yeah,
oh, You've never known a woman like me before.
Yeah. There's a lot of lines in this movie that are one-liners thought for either the trailer, or they're just one-liners that don't move anything forward. They're just there to make you chuckle or to sound cool, like, do you bleed? You will. Which is great for a trailer. But who's he saying that to? And Superman heard him for sure, because Superman has super hearing. But who's he saying that to?
You know what bothered me so much in that scene is that Superman, from that point on, 100% knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He doesn't even say, like, I know who you are. Like, he doesn't even say, like, Bruce, stop what you're doing. Like, he just keeps treating him. Anyway, can I just say my favorite line of the whole movie?
Go ahead.
It's when it's at the Lex Manor. You know what this is. It's when Clark is questioning him about Batman. And Bruce says, maybe it's the Gotham City in me. We just have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a sick burn. I love that line so much.
What I want, I want a Batman movie with like
Jared Leto's the Joker.
With a young Ben Affleck, but he's not young. But I mean, like, you try to make him look a bit younger, and I want to see the story of Robin or Jason Todd or whatever.
They'll make it eventually.
Yeah, but I want it now, Nick, because I want Ben Affleck.
Robert Pattinson's Batman is going to be good.
That's our next subject. We can't be talking about this now.
No, you're right, but it is going to be good. Here, I called it here first. You heard it here first. It's going to be a good movie.
I think it would be yeah, I think it will. It's got all the elements for it to be a good movie. Yeah.
Matthew Reeves is a good director.
Absolutely. I like what I've seen.
Can we do an Apes episode? I want to do an Apes episode.
I also want to do an Apes episode.
Oh, good.
And I want to do a Batman episode. I'd like to. What else would I like to talk about? I don't know, but that's two subjects I want to talk about.
KG Beast spinoff, maybe? God. Question mark?
No, please no. God no.
Well, let's wrap things up. And next week, are we in agreement that we're going to do an episode about all the worst things that we've seen on set and all the worst fuck-ups that we have seen and or performed on set? Because I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, we
have stories.
Definitely. Oh fuck yeah, yeah. I've never personally ruined a take. No, I've ruined takes. Yeah, I've ruined takes. So there are.
I'm sure if I have.
Yeah,
I have to remember. I'm sure I have.
Yeah, but
everybody's ruined takes.
Yeah, walkie-talkies, for fuck's sake.
Oh god, yeah. Okay, no, I've ruined takes with walkie-talkies. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm getting war flashbacks just thinking about it.
Yep.
That look from the sound man.
Yeah. Oh,
that's our subject for next week.
Okay, great. All right, so thanks for listening, everybody, and tune in.
Thanks for giving me an excuse for rewatching my favorite movie of all time.
Oh God, Nick!
Better than Citizen Kane. We're still friends after this, right?
I don't know, man. I mean, Citizen Kane is a boring movie, but it
could have used a warehouse scene.
Could have used more blood. That's true.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Do you bleed, Rosebud? That's it. That's the outro. We're not doing anything else. That's it. I'm going to cut there.
Yeah, you gotta.
That's it. I nailed it.
First try.